Maryvale Prep continues a tradition with their spring fiesta. We'll share the vibrant colors and atmosphere from the annual event.
At the National Symposium of Classical Education, I will be interviewing the former Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Tony Abbott, where we will be discussing his worldview, the books that have shaped him, and his ideas of classical education, and how classical education is moving on towards the future.
And a moment to remember seniors from Lincoln Preparatory with the distinct honor of laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington Cemetery during their senior trip to Washington, D.C.
And back in Arizona, Archway Veritas students got their own immersive history lesson from a former Vice President of the United States. We've got the one-on-one interview with Dan Quayle as he faces some of the toughest questions he's ever had to face.
What is your favorite fish not to eat?
My most favorite fish not to eat?
And today we have a lot of great stories to get to, so let's get started.
Welcome to the newest episode of Great Hearts, Great Stories. I'm Creon Foldrum, a senior here at Chandler Prep Academy.
And I'm Jillian McDonald, also a senior here at Chandler Prep. It's an annual tradition that seniors from across the Great Hearts Network spend a week in Washington, D.C., discovering and learning more about our nation's founding. Jackie Wong blogged her entire experience for all of Great Hearts, and this was her take on the trip.
I'm Jackie Wong, and I'm a senior at Glendale Preparatory Academy. So this year we went to DC. It's a tradition. Every year the seniors go, and we spend probably, I think this year it was 5 days, and we just try to see all the sites that DC has to offer. The first day was the Monument Day, and we just walked around like the whole mall, and we saw the Washington Monument, like the Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Vietnam, and the Korean War Memorial. And I just thought it was so great because when you think of DC, like you think of all these sites and obviously like the White House and stuff like that. But I think the monuments are really what adds so much character to DC, and like so much of the historical like richness is found with the monuments. And we saw like the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, and it was like a direct reference to his I Have a Dream speech. He says something about hope coming from a mountain of despair. And so the monument itself is like has two stones, and then in between it, like visitors walk through the middle, which is the Valley of Despair. And then on the opposite side, you look at King, and his he's carved into the stone, and he's holding like one of his speeches. So that was one of the most direct things that ties in with the curriculum. When we went to Arlington, it was raining that morning, and I feel like that really set the tone for the occasion, and especially with seeing like the changing of the guard for the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It filled me with a lot of pride, knowing that our country dedicates so much honor and respect to people who paid the ultimate price. I had such a great time with my friends, just because it's a different environment than most people I've ever had before. Like Mrs. Sarbacher said that it's kind of like a taste of college, which I definitely appreciated. And it is definitely bittersweet because like when you look back on the memories, you're like, it's sad that I'll be parting with all these people, but I just am so grateful that I had that time with them, just to experience friends in a new way and like get deeper with people, especially with like living with them for a week and just seeing people in like their everyday.
Jill, what was your favorite part of the DC trip?
The DC trip was so much fun. I think my favorite part was definitely going to Mount Vernon. That day it was like pouring rain, and weirdly enough, that was like, I think our favorite day. And most of the kids here at Chandler Prep that I've talked to have also said that that was one of the best experiences because we were all just walking around for like 2 hours straight and just getting to see all of these really amazing historical moments at Washington's estate. And it was just pouring rain, and we were all wet, but it was so much fun.
One of the most memorable moments from the senior trip came from Lincoln Preparatory Academy.
Jaden Cobster and Emma Torres were selected to represent the Great Hearts Academy by laying a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Humane Letters teacher Michael Fink said few things in our country hold greater meaning, and we couldn't be more proud of their decorum and respect as they honored this history, this space, and the soldiers present.
Kindergartners and fourth graders at Archway Veritas got their own unique history lesson from former United States Vice President Dan Quayle when he stopped by the academy to share more about the Presidents of the United States of America.
I came to Veritas to speak to the kindergartners and the 4th grade. I have a granddaughter in kindergarten. I have one in the 4th grade. They go here because it's a great school. 5 of my 6 granddaughters have gone here. They get a very good education here. Look at that, they're all ready to learn about presidents and vice presidents and the Congress and the Supreme Court, ready to go.
Morning, boys and girls. We have such a special treat. Today we have former Vice President Dan Quayle here to talk to you. I know some of you have been talking about this in class and even came up with some great questions. He is going to present. He came up with a presentation for you, so this is going to be just wonderful.
Good morning, girls and boys. Are you all ready to learn? We talked about government, talked about the presidency and the Congress, the Supreme Court. I'm going to get started. Here are the presidents. How many presidents have we had? 46. And who's the current president? Joe Biden. And who was the president that abolished slavery? See if how many of you can get this one. Who was the president when the Berlin Wall came down and the Soviet Union fell? George H.W. Bush. Very good, very close. He is right here. And I was his vice president. And I'm right here. I was the 44th vice president of the United States. I tried to teach them about the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch. Talk to them about how many members of the Senate we have, how many members of the House of Representatives we had. They're going to go home and impress their parents. There are 3 branches of our government, all right? You have the executive branch, and who's in the executive branch? The president and the vice president, okay? And you have the Congress. And then in the Congress, you have the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. And then you have a Supreme Court right there. So you have, how many branches of government do we have? 3. And what are they? Executive, legislative, and judicial. And that's very important. You got a question? You want to do what? High five. Why don't we stop something? Okay. How many members are in the United States Congress? How many? Stand up and say what the number is. 435. Don't forget that. This is the U.S. House of Representatives, Congress. And the congressman is elected for 2 years. Tonight, when you go home, you can ask your parents, how many members of Congress are there? And see if they know. And don't forget the number. What's the number? 435. Showed them where I lived as vice president, where the president lived. You've been asking, where do I live? This is the Naval Observatory. It's run by the Navy, but it is the vice president's residence. It's not a bad place, is it? Right. And it's got about 40 acres there. This is the first floor, and then we would walk up the stairs, and that's where I lived. Now, how about that? This is in the White House, a bowling alley. So when you get a tour of the White House, you need to ask to see the bowling alley. It's really, really cool. Got time for a few questions. All right, here you go.
What's the most famous person in your contacts?
Most famous person in my contacts? Well, it's classified. Yeah.
Do you like cookies?
Cookies, yes, I like chocolate chip cookies. Yeah, you got a question?
What's your favorite thing about being a president?
Favorite thing about being vice president? Working with President Bush every day, working in that Oval Office, and it was a great honor for me to be working with the president, making decisions that impact the entire world. You got a question?
Did your son ever want to be a president or a vice president?
Well, I had a son. Their dad was in the Congress for a while, and so I thought that he might want to be president or vice president, but then he's out of Congress and he's working and he has really no interest now. Yeah. Do I have a bodyguard? Right here. These are the two bodyguards, and they're very, very good. My favorite question was,
What's your favorite letter?
my favorite letters, Q. Very good, you guys all passed. Very good, congratulations.
What did we say?
What's your favorite number?
Number 7.
7-Eleven's my birthday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was a lot of fun, a great day, and I think they learned a lot.
And still ahead, we're sitting down with the former vice president, where he'll answer some hard-hitting questions from our young journalist scholars, who may have a little inside knowledge when it comes to the Quayle family.
On the prep side, the Veritas Prep Helping Hands organization had over 60 volunteers who helped pack over 136,000 meals over the course of 2 days for the 8th annual Arcadia Cares Food for Kids Packathon.
Maryvale Preparatory held their 11th annual Fiesta earlier this March to celebrate the beginning of spring, with live music, amazing food, performances from a dance group, and even a petting zoo.
This is our 11th annual Spring Fiesta. It's just a really exciting event where people can come, spend some time with our community and with our teachers and staff too. So the original idea was more to have a space where families could come together and get to know each other outside of the normal school hours. And it's really turned into such a big, beautiful event. It started as something small where like people could just come and hang out, but eventually our community grew also. Now we have 1,100 students. Those families come and they just have a lot of fun. We have a really high percentage of Hispanic families in our community, and so this is an event that's really dear to them because we have their culture highlighted, and it's just beautiful.
Across the valley to Gilbert now, Arete Prep senior Ryan Murad hit his career milestone by scoring his 1,000th point on the Horcourt this season. Not only that, he is ranked 13th in the country for three-pointers. Not too shabby for this future doctor.
My name is Ryan Murad, and I'm a senior here at Arete. My two older brothers played every sport in the book, and when I was born, basketball was what they were on. And of course, you know, they were playing it, so I had to do it too, and it just kind of always stuck with me. My sophomore year, I set the school record for threes made in a season. My junior year, I did it again, and then this year, I did it again. And I'm 2nd in the state and 13th in the country for threes made in a season. I got to 1,000 points sometime in December. I passed it in a holiday tournament. A few games later, when my parents walked in with some balloons, I knew what was happening. Basketball has taught me a lot of patience. If you look at games from last year and sophomore year, I was like really short-tempered. I got a lot of texts last year, yelled a lot, and this year I've really learned to like dial it back. Progress doesn't happen right away. You're not gonna become an amazing player right away. So just keep with it. It's fun if you stick through it. In the term like student athlete, you always hear that student comes first, and I think Arete does a good job of emphasizing that. It's a pretty big workload in the classroom, but they give you all the resources you need to succeed. Both of my older brothers told me freshman year at college is easier than senior year in high school.
We're going go!
The rigor of the classes here set you up for success.
Good night!
I'm gonna go to U of A, and I'm majoring in medicine, and so from there med school, and then hopefully to become a doctor. I love basketball. It's like been a big part of my life, and it's been a lot of things for me, but it's kind of nice to know like the stress and the anxiety and the anger that comes with it. It's just gonna be like set down finally. I'll play recreational, but organized basketball ends in high school for me.
1, 2, 3, charge!
I remember last year when I played basketball, being the football player on the basketball team, I wasn't getting too much playing time, so I would just watch him just sink threes, and I was just amazed because I couldn't do that.
Joshua Tom from Lincoln Preparatory Academy became a Flinn Scholarship finalist. This prestigious award is only given to a few select seniors and awards the senior with a full ride scholarship to any of the Arizona universities. He will be attending Arizona State University in the fall studying computer engineering.
My name's Joshua Tom, and I'm a senior here at Lincoln Preparatory Academy, and I'm a Flinn finalist. I was just looking through full ride scholarships, and it caught my eye as the Arizona exclusive prestigious scholarship. I applied to it just to give it a shot. Thought it would be interesting. Becoming a finalist, you have to push yourself a little more and be more personal. We had to do an online interview, and they just tried to see like what kind of person we were. From there, they cut the 80 semifinalists down to the 37 finalists where we're at now. I have the finalist interview in front of a larger panel and see if I'm worth the investment and if I truly can help Arizona. A Flinn Scholar, they're a very motivated and driven person. They're very smart and intellectual, but above all, they want to help and benefit Arizona. There's a lot of benefits and connections that come with being a Flinn Scholar. A full ride scholarship, so they pay for tuition and housing. There's also a multi-week travel abroad program. We also have study abroad programs as well. There's a massive community of super passionate people that I can connect to. I'm going to ASU as a computer engineer major in the Barrett College. I'm hoping to grow as a person, as a student, and just build on what I've already gotten at Great Hearts. If I do become a Flinn Scholar, it proves that extracurriculars, studying, just doing good in school and becoming passionate in certain things would all really pay off. I'm gonna try my best. So whatever happens, happens, and I've made a lot of connections and I've learned a lot of different things. I think it's just exciting.
And now back to our time with former United States Vice President Dan Quayle as he sits down for an interview with fourth grader Willa and kindergartner Tori Quayle.
A familiar last name there. Get ready for some of the hardest questions our former Vice President has ever been asked.
We are here with former Vice President Dan Quayle, but to me and my sister, he's Babu.
Always Babu.
The kinder and fourth graders had a couple questions, and these are the ones that we decided to ask.
Okay, I'm ready.
Why did you want to be Vice President?
I was picked by George H.W. Bush to be his Vice President. And I let him know that I would be his vice president, but it was his decision. You're not elected by the people in a primary, you're appointed by the presidential candidate. So I was fortunate to get the nod and the appointment from George Bush.
Okay, here's another. What was the hardest decision you had to make as vice president?
The hardest decision would probably be to make sure that you always follow the president's agenda and his ideas. There are two requirements when you're vice president. You have to be prepared to be president, and you need to be loyal. It was easy for me to be loyal because he was a very good person, but there were times that we disagreed, and to keep those disagreements private, confidential, it was always hard.
Okay. Did you ever fly in Air Force One? If so, what was it like?
I had Air Force Two, not Air Force One. And the reason that we didn't both fly on Air Force One, because if there was an attack or a crash, then both the president and the vice president would be gone. And we always flew in separate planes. And I had Air Force Two.
Okay. What is your favorite memory?
My favorite memory is just working every day in the Oval Office with George H.W. Bush, who was a very decent, honorable person, always did what he thought was right for the country, tried to put politics aside. And I've always told my kids and my grandkids, if you want a role model in life, look to George H.W. Bush.
What is your favorite fish not to eat?
My most favorite fish not to eat? Well, I like almost all the fish, but I guess I don't like squid, if that qualifies as a fish.
Okay. Who was your favorite president?
My favorite president? Well, the one I worked with, of course, George H.W. Bush. But in history, you had George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. You know, those are two that come to mind right away.
Thank you for being here, former Vice President Dan Quayle.
Also known as?
Babu.
Thank you. Very good.
Okay, so what's the story behind Babu?
Well, it turns out that he wanted his grandkids to call him Big Buddha, but the youngest of the grandchildren couldn't say Big Buddha when he was younger, so he called him Babu. That's where the name comes from.
That's actually so wholesome. A number of other well-known academics and leaders from across the country descended into Phoenix for the National Symposium for Classical Education.
It has been another great year at Symposium. This is my second time here in Phoenix, and between the keynote speakers and the breakout sessions, there was a lot more offered, it seems like, this year, but it's also just been a great time to connect with my colleagues from across the network.
Keynote speakers have been fantastic. We've had a diverse set of experiences in relation to classical education, different ideas about it, and I've got a lot that I can take back to the schools.
So this is an important time at the symposium for me as a school leader to be able to immerse myself in all of the wonderful aspects of classical education that brought me to this journey, first with my children and then as a teacher and as a leader, and to really be able to answer those hard questions about why do we do this difficult work? What is so wonderful about classical education?
It's a privilege and honor to be here. This is my first time at the Classical Education Symposium, and it's just been so exciting to hear all of these great ideas from things like creating professional development to the great books and what are they, and what is their importance.
And as our interviews with high-profile leaders are showcased in this episode, let's send it out to Annika Garrison.
Welcome to the National Symposium for Classical Education. My name is Annika Garrison, a senior from Great Hearts Anthem, and today I have the distinct honor and privilege of sitting down with a global leader whose wisdom and leadership have transcended global boundaries. Today I am sitting with the Honorable Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister of Australia. Really, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and joining us today.
Let's leave judgment as to what's wisdom to the listeners, but I'll do my best.
Well, wisdom can be found through questions. So I have a few questions prepared, and my first question is, you were the former Prime Minister of Australia from 2013 to 2015. What was the deciding factor for you to enter politics?
Well, going into politics is not just one's own decision. Many are called, but few are chosen. In Australia, as in most democracies, there's someone deciding that he or she would like to run for office, and there's the decisions of parties to endorse people or not endorse people. There's the decision of the electorate to support or not to support people. So look, I put myself forward as a Liberal candidate for Parliament back in 1994 because I wanted to make a difference. And I guess when I was growing up, I'd carefully studied different historical figures who'd made a difference, and how I'd been educated by the Jesuits who had drummed into us back in the day that we should be men for others, and that the world should be a little bit different and a little bit better for our presence. At university, I'd been involved in student politics. Then I'd become a journalist or a commentator. And so I guess I had the kind of background which predisposed me at some point in time to wanting to have a go at politics. And I did, and here I am.
So you talked a little bit about your education with the Jesuits and then heading into university. And a part coming from my side of Great Hearts is reading the great books. How has your favorite book, first off, what is it? And how has that influenced you?
The book I've most read was Lord of the Rings, and I first read it when I was at university. I was not well on a trip up the coast, and so instead of surfing on this particular day, I retired to our tent and started reading. And I was so completely captivated that basically I just did nothing but read for the next 3 days. I must have read it a half a dozen times in total, most recently to my adolescent kids a few years back. And it's a wonderful adventure of duty and struggle, whether it be, the defence of Helm's Deep, or trying to escape the black riders in the dark country between the Shire and Rivendell. All of those things have become my regular companions.
I also agree. The Lord of the Rings is my favorite book, so it is good to hear that it is yours, just because it is such an amazing book, being filled with so many great themes. Kind of shifting more towards your view of classical education in Australia, what is the interest of classical education over in Australia?
I think most people in Australia are pretty pragmatic and utilitarian. They just want a decent education for themselves and a good education for their kids. And there is, I say regrettably, a tendency to think that a good education is something which enables you to get the best possible job. Now, I'm all in favour of people getting the best possible job or being successful in business or whatever it might be. But I certainly think that at the heart of doing well in life, whatever it might be, is certain foundational concepts of who we are as people, what is our purpose in life, I guess an appreciation of the importance of telling the truth as you see it, say what you mean and do what you say, living your life in that kind of a way. And I think that a classical education is what best produces the qualities of character and judgment and courage, which are so important to real success. So look, I certainly think that we could use more classical education in Australia, whether it be schools that have the kind of curriculum that Great Hearts has, whether it's universities which have a focus on the Western canon and the great books. I certainly think we should have more of it, but it's a bit of an acquired taste, I think, and really what we need is more people to speak out about the value of these things, and that's where I suppose supply creates its own demand. And we probably need more supply, and then you'll get, over time, more demand.
Well, thank you, Mr. Abbott, for joining us today. I certainly think I have so much wisdom and so much inspiration to head out into the final little bit of the school year. But thank you again so much for joining us. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thanks, Alliga.
State representatives met at the Arizona State Capitol for the Charters at the Capitol event to showcase the importance and differences that charter schools are making in Arizona.
Today's the annual Charters at the Capitol event.
It was 30 years ago that the charter school movement became a reality.
Legislators, statewide elected leaders come spend time really supporting charter schools that serve just an incredible number of families all throughout the Phoenix area for Great Hearts, and definitely the state for many other charter providers as well.
Parents know the best way to educate their children, and that's why we honor school choice in Arizona.
It's just kind of a getting together, everyone's celebrating, and continuing to advocate and lobby for the good work that charters can do to add parental choice to the educational scene in Arizona.
It gives a parent a unique perspective to identify the special characteristics that their student has and better feeds what type of education they will receive.
1, 2, 3, and so
It's been amazing to see what they've been able to do and grow and be part of our community and help our kids go to the next level and achieve everything that they can achieve in their lives and their career.
Part of today is also to kind of gather us to show that we are on the same team and that we're just all here for the students and wanting to show that each school is unique.
It's really important for us to be able to lock arms with our charter school colleagues and make sure that state officials, elected leaders aren't missing the fact that we do such good and important work.
We're grateful for Great Hearts and all the other charter schools in the state that continue to do amazing work for our kids and our students.
And Great Hearts continues to expand across the country. Here in Arizona, we have over 20,000 students enrolled with another 10,000 on the wait list.
That's why it's so important for us to continue to grow. At Maryvale Prep, the construction of the new high school wing is almost nearly complete, which will open the doors for many more students to come.
We at Maryvale Prep are so grateful to the support of the Diane and Bruce Hawley Foundation as we've embarked on this really exciting new phase in our school with a new building, a new addition on our prep side.
It's been amazing watching it go up. It feels like I snapped my fingers and it was there.
It feels surreal to me, and I am so excited to step into that new building with all of our new kids and with all of those who are returning to join us and benefit from the space.
I remember last year when we had the meeting and they announced that the new building was really gonna happen, and the excitement on all the opportunity that that's bringing.
Senior lounge.
3 new classes.
Our own cafeteria now.
The additional space.
Improved college counseling suite.
Our students deserve the best, and this is like a great opportunity for them.
It's just really, really exciting to be able to offer this to more students.
To meet the needs of our students and to really help them thrive.
And we couldn't do that if we didn't have literally the physical space.
A nice area for our upperclassmen to have separated from the rest of the school, which I think is really special and important for them.
It's just really, really exciting that we'll be able to open our doors to more students, have more new personalities coming in, and being a part of our community.
Big thanks to the Diane and Bruce Hawley Foundation for providing this opportunity for our students. So we can't wait for them to come and see it.
We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Be sure to tune in every first Saturday of the month at 4:30 to catch all the latest stories from Great Hearts.
We leave you now with a look at our Spartan Riders, an extracurricular activity that takes our mountain bikers from Scottsdale Prep to hit the trails of the Sonoran Desert.